Roar. This is the bearish takeover of the channel. The bears get no respect, and I'm going to take care of that by taking over this channel and posting videos on all the bearish transactions. If you're looking for Dean, I ate him. Ha 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 ha. Welcome to Halloween's version of our live stream. Get some housekeeping done, and then we'll go through some things for you. Tell us what exam you're taking, where you're joining us from. And if you do have questions, try and put them in the proper format if you can. And let's see, what do we need to talk about? We're doing a podcast. Next episode is next Wednesday. It'll be mutual funds. We did options last night, so feel free to join us for that. We have discounts codes for Kaplan. That's Guru15. That's a 15% discount code on all Kaplan products. And Brian is busy handing out candy, I think, or in costume somewhere. He's my usually very special guest, but he's celebrating Halloween. So just me, but Brian's been kind enough. He's the test geek himself to give us a 20% discount code for his paid supplements. The best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel, but the best paid supplement, I think, is a Kaplan QBank and Test Geek supplement. If you have a question, it's mainly about content, but also fun and fellowship. So if you have a question, just put that as in the format of what exam you're taking, followed by the Q, so I can pick it out of the chat and make it a little more easy to locate. So live stream, if you miss these, we do them every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time. But if you miss them, they're available as a podcast on both the YouTube channel as well as Spotify. In terms of being efficient in using the channel, the most efficient way to use the channel is by finding your series playlist. So if you're taking the SIE for exam, for example, there are 3 SIE playlists. The first one is lecture. The second one is practice, test, and practice questions. And the third playlist is a podcast series. So they're all in suggested watch order. The videos, I get, people, what videos should I watch? It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. However, they are in suggested watch order, and the playlists are in suggested watch order as well. If you're looking for a particular thing, like just yesterday, so you should make a muni bond lecture. I said, there's 3 or 4 of them. Just go to the channel search bar, put in accrued interest or margin or municipal bonds, and whatever you're looking for, the content we have available will show up. We end each of our our live streams with a drawing for coaching call. Just posted the replay of the coaching call with Cynthia. We did 20 option taxation practice questions. I also put in the video description and pinned comment the link to a tutoring replay where I did a whole hour on taxation questions. They're really disguised gain-loss questions than they are taxation questions. But if you're interested in that, it's available. And then I did a 30-minute coaching call with Sam, who won last week on Series 66 and present value, future value, and some option stuff as well. So if you win, you'll need to claim that by email, and then we talk about whatever you want to talk about from any series exam. All right, let's see what we got going on in chat, and we'll get started. Oh, let me get rid of that. Boom. Happy Halloween, Cynthia. Did you see my mask? I put on my mask. I don't know if you saw my bear takeover. I had a place where there were bears, actually real bears, and I used to sub at the high school. It would be funny, because the only person ever referred to me as Mr. Tinney, or kids at the high school that had me as a substitute teacher, and they said, "Mr. Tinney, there's a bear in the tree," and I thought, "What?" Sure enough, it was Cub the bear. And I go, "What do we do?" I go, "Leave him alone. You don't want the mama coming to track you down." All right, Les, well, make sure you get a good night's sleep. We're sending good test vibes your way. I don't know where you're at right now, but like I say, biggest thing will be getting some rest. It's all these NASA FINRA exams are giant reading tests. You want your reading skills to be in top form. I know when I don't get a good night's rest, my reading forms are not in top form. So your number one thing between not today and tomorrow is to get a good night's rest and dreams of happy passing, making your mark. Hey, DeMarcus, how are you? Hey, Dean, just wanted to come in. Thank you for the videos. I just passed my Series 7 this morning. Wow. Testing victory is fresh. Victorious test taker in the house. I think you actually passed a mid-2 test, right? I think the second test is actually more important. You passed your Series 7, but you also passed a test of your resiliency. And that bodes, I think, very well for your future success in the securities industry. People will invest with you because they like you and they trust you, not because you can pass tests. In fact, we don't give scores anymore. But when somebody got over 90, I would say, I think I should just fire you now. And they'd say, why? I said, well, how am I going to supervise? You're one step ahead of me. And all you really proven is you're big a jerk as the person who wrote the test. My best broker took the test 5 times. He would actually go out and tell people, hey, I know this stuff because I had to take the test 5 times. So we went to pass the first time. But I like to see how people react. I have a video, and I think when you miss your mark, how you respond to that, it says a lot about, whether your firm's going to re-sponsor you and how you're going to do in the securities industry. And then when you redeem yourself on that second try, woo, that's a good spot to be in. Good spot. Marcel, you're the only person I still owe a coaching call to. I got caught up with Sam. I got caught up with Cynthia, so I got to catch up with you. So let's talk tomorrow and get that one done. And then I'll be all caught up. And Mom I always tell her hello. She always asks how you're doing. When am I taking to New Orleans so we can reciprocate and get you a nice dinner as well? Well, I have lots of options videos for sure. I mean, I'll link to the options playlist at 654, for other folks. But, it's a buffet. I think if you understand options, you can turn them into a strength. I think you're in really great shape. So I would tell you, I do have tricks, but I do think if you intellectually own things, you don't have to memorize as much. And so particularly in options, there's a fork in the road in options. The fork is memorization only and understanding. Now, by the way, I teach both. But however, if you go intellectual understanding, you don't have to memorize a bunch of stuff. If you go down the memory road, the amount of stuff you're going to have to memorize is going to continue to compound. Cynthia and I just did 20 option taxation questions. And to be honest, I was telling Cynthia, I don't really think you're going to see anywhere near that. Test prep vendors go over, but what I did like is we practiced how to set them up, how to close them out. And the phraseology, I think, is very testable. Close out at intrinsic value. And if you don't know what that is, you don't know how to close it out. So very productive. Yeah, you just got to keep, again, we talked about this, DeMarcus, being resilient. I don't know how hard you're working, so I don't have enough context, but let me tell you about a person last week was in a very similar situation. After talking to her, I said, I don't say this very often, but you may be working too hard. I said, we don't have a collapsing timeline. Your study plan, the execution of your study plan, it collapses. Options are wasting asset and so are study plans. So, at some point, you don't have time to do remediation, but she had plenty of time. I said, I want you to do me a favor. Just take tomorrow off. I don't want you to do anything with this. Your brain will still be working on it, but it'll give your brain a chance to refresh and reset and then come back to it. And that alone got her into the mid-70s the next time she took a practice test. So something to consider. I don't know how much work you're doing, but if you feel like you're doing too much and your brain is just turning to mush, you have to refresh and reset. By the way, I recommend that to every test taker, that at least you have 1 day a week where you don't do anything. You just let your brain lay fallow, just like, farmers do with their fields. Just let it, refresh, reset, and then come back to it. So, well, how many questions might I see on Reg D? Well, I don't know, but Reg D is very testable. It's testable on a lot of exams. So let me just talk about Reg D here. 938. Reg D. All right, so 33 says that if you want to sell brand new securities to the public, you have to make a registration statement. hence the term registered securities. Now, there are certain under 33, certain exempt transactions. Exempt transactions are also known as safe harbors. Those safe harbors are Reg A, Rule 147, and Reg D. So the SEC says, Dean, were you selling brand new securities to the public without making a registration statement? I say I was selling brand new securities. I was selling unregistered securities, but I was not selling them to the public. I was selling them to accredited investors or sophisticated investors. So Reg D is an exempt transaction under 33, and it's also a federally covered security, meaning that I'm not going to have to register Reg D with either the SEC or under the Uniform Securities Act. I'm not going to have to qualify it. I'm not going to have to, coordinate. So that's how it relates to, your 66. And then follow-up question is, what is an accredited investor? Very testable. Accredited investor is someone who has $1 million of net worth. So I say, hey, Trish, I want to send you an invitation to participate. This is an investment by invitation only. I can only send the invite, the private placement memorandum, to accredited investors. Do you have $1 million net worth exclusive of your primary residence? She says, no. I say, well, hold on. Do you make 200 grand for the last 2 years with the expectation 200 grand this year? She says, no. So hold on. I want to invite you. I'm trying my hardest to send you an invite. I said, you make 300 grand for the last 2 years with the expectation of 300 grand this year. Listen, if you make $1 million and you lose your money, who cares? I'm joking, but it's about protecting retail investors. And if you make 200 or 300, so what? Work another year. Either you have the ability to make a decision or can hire somebody to act on your behalf. So nobody really cares about you. Now, a good way to remember that is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. $1 million, 200, 300. Now, also, Trish, you are a Series 7 in good standing. You two are accredited. Don't think you'll see that on the exam. Or a 65 in good standing is accredited. Now, there's two versions of a Reg D. There's a 506B, and this is testable again. I think you could see this on both the SIE, the Series 7, and 65 and 66. With 506B, I can have up to 35 sophisticated but not accredited investors. I can have an unlimited number of accredited investors and an unlimited number of institutional investors. And the distinction, besides I can have the 35, is I can't solicit, I can't advertise. Now, if I kick the 35 to the curb, I say to the SEC, in this Reg D, I'm not going to have any non-accredited investors. That would be 506C. And 506C, I can have no non-accredited investors. I could have accredited and institutional, but I can advertise. So that's kind of cool. So I can solicit or advertise. So that's the distinction between the 506B, 35, sophisticated, non-accredited, can't solicit. 506C, no individuals. We mean living, breathing human beings, individuals, natural persons. So no non-accredited investors. Now, another trick is to make sure you understand that that's all accreditation means, period, full stop. That you can accept an invitation to a Reg D private placement. It means nothing other than that. So don't confuse that with like the Uniform Securities Act and whether I'm going to be protected by my state administrator. If I'm an accredited investor, I'm still a retail investor as it applies to protections under the Uniform Securities Act. So I would also know Reg A, Tier 1 is up to 20 million. That's, again, another safe harbor. And here I can solicit retail investors. Tier 2, I can go up to 75 million, but then I can't allow you to invest more than 10% of your net worth into the deal. And I have to have audited financial statements. Rule 147 is kind of a funky one on the 66, 65, and 7. It's more funky as it relates to testable content on 65, 66, but let's go through that one real quick. 80% test for me to use this one. The issuer has to have 80% of their business and assets within the state, the issuer. I can only sell it to residents of that state. After 6 months, they could sell it to someone else. And this one, I don't have to register under 33, but I do have to qualify. I do have to register on the Uniform Securities Act to what's called qualification. So to answer your original question, Trish, not sure how many questions you will receive. I would think 1 or 2, maybe 3. And then remember, you're buying unregistered securities, so the always unregistered, there's going to be some holding period. I'd have a general understanding of how we turn unregistered securities into registered security. Different topic, but along the same lines. But we just don't know which of those you're going to receive. So I guess you got to know them all, I guess. Huh? So link, look, if you're on LinkedIn, let me know. It looks like I'm having problems on broadcasting to LinkedIn. So let me get rid of that. How do I get rid of it? If I disappear, you'll know that I'm playing around here. Remove this destination. Okay, hopefully I'm still here. Happy Halloween Series 7 on December 2nd for the 3rd time. Well, Diana, as I said earlier, you're going to make your mark and then you're going to pass that resiliency. As I said, that bodes very, very well for your future success in our business. So hopefully you have found out or done some contemplation of what you think caused the first 2 misses and have done remediation and know what you're going to do different this time. So if you haven't, I'll link, Diana. I don't know if you watched it already at 1624. I will link to my recommendations about how to redo a study plan after missing the mark. Okay. Oh, Yasha, I'm glad to see you got it. I sent Yasha one a coaching call. I think he did pretty good. We got on the call and I decided to comp him a SIE. I think I sent you the SIE book and the quick sheets and all that. So you're right. Well, you don't miss your mark now. You got no excuse. He told me he was using SIE for dummies. Those are good, I think, as reasonably priced paid supplements. But I really think you need a Q bank and you need a manual. So, and then there's no really shortcuts, unfortunately. Well, I take that back. I mean, there are ways to make your life easier. Let's put it that way. However, you need to read the book. You read the book cover to cover. I would do that first if would be my first part of my study plan. Whenever I'm trying to learn a new topic, is I create a bibliography, if you will, of things I need, resources I have, and I start reading there. So try and read that book. It's kind of a must read, so to speak. You are welcome. All your memory aids, and don't think I could do without your channel. Thank you, Amber. We have tips, tricks, and memory aids. That is one of the most popular videos on the channel. It's, I think, coming up on 50,000 views. People have found it very helpful. So yeah, I'm glad it makes a contribution to a lot of test takers. So glad to hear you found that helpful. Be careful too. I have another one, all the math necessary on Series 7. I didn't say all the math. So, every once in a while, oh, you don't have the theoretical value of an X trading X right or come right. I go, because I don't think it's something you're going to actually have to do on the test. So I didn't say I got all the math there. I got the important math. Woohoo! Victorious test taker in the house. You are welcome. It's always my pleasure. It's always very gratifying when the channel contributes to test taking victories like yours. It's amazing. I think the number one reason the channel has grown like it has is, test taking victories, right? I mean, I used to hire people who would teach classes. I don't do it anymore. It's been years, but when I'd hire them, they say, well, how important is it that people pass their test? So well, that's very important. That's the sine qua non, the essential essence. That's Latin for the most important thing, right? So, when you're making wine, it's the grapes. So, anyways, so I'm glad to hear that. And I never realized that I had haters until I got on social media. But I think they think I'm more clever or technically literate than I am, because they'll say, oh, he's using SEOs. And I don't use hashtags. I don't do search engine optimization. I just try and make videos I think people would find as test takers helpful. And, I don't know how I guess I'm lucky. I don't know how to overthink that. So, not everybody, like I said, I had a guy the other day and I wasn't his cup of tea. I get it. I said, well, good news for you. You can change the channel. I ain't changing. I kind of am who I am. And you're not going to find a new video tomorrow where I'm somebody different. Right. So I felt like, well, you get what you pay for, right? And it was free. All right. So, Trish, I answered your questions. Does anybody else have any content questions? I know it's Halloween. Brian's out trick or treating. I know a lot of people are trick or treating. So maybe tonight will be a very low key evening. So here's your chance. If you have any questions, we certainly have the time to answer them. Ivy, welcome. 66 from Illinois. I think Ivy, they have a ladies syndicate where they share the tutoring costs, and we did some questions I thought were pretty helpful from the 66. So I don't think I got permission to replay that one, so I don't think I have a video for that one. But I thought that was a productive session, Ivy. I think we got through quite a bit, and I thought Tiffany did a good job. Nothing else? Did I actually disconnect myself? Are you guys still out there? I know I was having problems technically earlier. Here's some more stuff. Should I get an SIE if I'm interested in wealth management? Why not? Why not? You know, it's you don't have to be sponsored for the SIE. I think one of the reasons they kind of bifurcated what used to be the old Series 7 was 2 3-hour sessions, Tiff. So 250 questions. You had 6 hours to do it, and you know, passing score. And my thoughts are, if you're a sponsoring broker dealer now, you're making less of a speculative bet on human capital, because you can come in already and take the SIE or come in with the SIE. If that's on your curriculum vitae, your resume, that you've already done that on your own, I think it shows initiative. I think it's interesting. And then FINRA will allow you to go into, they have a job search site where you can do that. So yeah, I think you should definitely, if you're interested in wealth management, take the SIE. And then your CFP in the future, yeah, I don't think it can absolutely won't hurt you at all. Right. And if you take your CFP, then, you know, you're on the road. Probably have to take a 7 at some point, but, you know, we're 65. Happy Halloween, Andy, taking 66. All right. Remember, get a good night's rest. You are welcome for the content on 66. We have 2 playlists, soon to be 3. I'll link to those 2 playlists. One is lectures and the others is practice questions and tests. And I'll link those for other people. And we're soon to have a 3rd podcast playlist. Brian and I collaborated on a Series 65 podcast, and people found it very helpful. So I roped them into doing another one. So we'll be doing a 66 podcast. First episode is tentatively scheduled for November 8th. And we're just going to run through the entire 66 in podcast form. So be looking forward to that. Amber, I have a video on that. It looks like, let me see. Anita, I would link the 65 playlist here, but I'm not sure. You know, this sounds silly, but I don't know how actually to do that live. So I will certainly, Anita, post that in the replay at 23:13. I will post the 65 playlist for you. On that one, there's 3. Those 3 are, let me just put that there so I can mark this. Where is it? Looks like I already missed it. Anyways, there's 3. There's a 65 lecture playlist. There's a 65 practice test, practice question playlist. And the 3rd playlist is that podcast series that Brian and I did together, collaborated on. I'll link those all there in the video replay for you. Let's take care of this one. So, I might be making a mistake here, but we'll see if I can get it done. And let's get rid of. Let's get rid of that. And let's do that. Can you guys see in chat? I don't know how close the chat is. Amber, can you see my whiteboard? Yes, no? Anita, I told you I'm going to take care of that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take care of that first. I'm going to show you a takedown here in a minute. Anita, I just saw your other question. There is no trick. but prohibited transactions on 65 are called unethical business practices, and it's 14 questions. That's target rich on your exam. So I'll link to unethical business practices. I'll try and remember to do that, Anita. If I don't, you can find that video in the playlist. It has an angel on one shoulder on the thumbnail and a devil on the other one. All right, so let's see if I can get this done. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's say the issuer in a bond underwriting is going to receive $990. This is for Series 7. And let's say that, and let's say that the issuer, the investors are going to pay $1,000. And that is called the investors pay, that's par, right? And so first test question here, very testable. Spread always means difference. So spread always means difference. So the spread here is not $10. It is not $10. The spread here is 1 point. You know, a bond point equals $10. Let's say that I am the managing underwriter. So let's just say Goldman Sachs, or we'll just say I'm UBS. I'm UBS and I'm the managing underwriter. And what that means is you cannot get these bonds without coming through moi. You know, so you call me up if you're a member of my syndicate. I'm not going to go into the part about, you know, it was competitive and whoever won was the lowest net interest cost. I'll also link Amber to a video. I have a whole video on municipal underwriting that I will link to as well. But we'll just real quickly go over takedowns and spreads. So test question number 1, the spread is $10 here, 1 point. Now is the managing underwriter, you can't get the bonds without coming through me. And I'm going to charge you to take down bonds $991.25. $991.25. And so that eighth, that's 1/8. Again, it's like learning a foreign language. They say when you dream the foreign language, that's when you know it. And so $1.25 here is the management fee. Test question. The management fee is typically the smallest individual component of the spread. Right? So on every bond sold, I'm making 1/8, regardless of who sells the bonds. Now, if you're a member of my syndicate and you're taking down bonds at $991.25, you can make the total takedown. The total takedown is actually 2 components of the spread. Right, so boom. Yeah, I probably should be able to do better. I'm practicing how to do this live, so I appreciate your patience. Anyways, here we have a 7/8, and that is called the total takedown. So Amber, the total takedown in munis is 2 components of the spread. It's not one. So you got to be careful again. RTFQ, read the full question. Am I asking you about an individual component of the spread, or am I asking you about the largest component? If I ask what is the largest component, a component of the spread, you would say the total takedown. In this case, it's 7/8. Now, let's say you're Merrill Lynch and you want to build your own selling group. Selling group members are not members of the syndicate. And a selling group member can take down bonds at $995. And so the selling concession here would be a 0.5 point. And again, 0.5 point is $5. And very testable, selling group members are never liable for unsold securities. And that is called the selling concession. the selling concessions. So please note here, boom, and 3/8, I'll put that here. 3/8 is the hardest part, I think, to get, and that's called the additional takedown. And again, let me clean this up here. And that's the difference here between the 991.25 and that. So the participants in this underwriting amber are the managing underwriter, members of the syndicate that are underwriters as well, and members of the selling group. And in this example test question, the spread is the difference between what the issuer receives and the investors pay, $1.10. There are 3 components to the spread. Additional takedown, that's munis, and stocks, it would be the underwriter's fee. But munis are more likely to be tested. So syndicate members can take down bonds at 991.25. So on every bond sold, the manager is going to make $1.25, 1/8. Remember, that's, you got to be the fractions, you got to kind of have the fractions down. So syndicate members can take it down at 991.25, and they can build their own bracket. And if they don't want to sell them themselves, probably going to want to sell some themselves and build their own selling group. And so they might call Fidelity and say, hey, you got customers who want some munis. I'll let you have bonds for $9.95. And again, that would be members of the selling group, not members of the syndicate. They make a 0.5 point and would not be a risk for unsold securities. Now, in the video I'm going to link to, Amber, I actually play this game with you and ask who you were based on, how much money you made. What shows up on the Series 7 a lot is a question that goes something like this. Your firm was a member of this selling group. I show this to you as an exhibit, and I say your firm was a member of the selling group. Then you, as the test taker, I go, okay, based on this exhibit, my firm is going to make a 0.5 point. And they say your firm sold $50,000 or 50,000 bonds. So you take your calculator, 50,000 bonds times the $5, and you would tell me on the test that your firm made $250,000 in compensation and was not at risk for unsold securities. The other thing I would know is the difference between a Eastern and a Western syndicate. And again, I will link for that, link with that in your in the replay for you. Okay, let me get back to my thing here. Boom. Hope you found that helpful, Amber. Let's see what else we got. There's no tricks. I mean, I'm sorry, there's no tricks. Best prep. Well, I am a senior instructor emeritus at Kaplan, and Kaplan hires me, Guru Exam Prep, to teach classes for them. Guru Exam Prep is a LLC with a sole managing member, me. So what do you think I'm going to tell you that the best test prep course is? Now that I've disclosed to you that Kaplan hires yours truly, well, I shouldn't say me, even though it's me, Guru Exam Prep, to teach classes for them, you would know what follows is I think Kaplan's the best, or I'd be teaching for somebody else. I have lots of opportunities. I'm pretty blessed in that regard. And so I think Kaplan is the best, particularly on NASA exams. My 15% discount code for Kaplan is Guru15. So I've answered your question. I'm agnostic on the channel itself. So if you go to the 63 playlist, you'll find other content besides Kaplan content there. But that's the answer. By the way, that would be the same answer for any FINRA NASAA exam you would ask me. Who do I think is the best test prep course? It's going to be Kaplan. Yeah, I thought it was. I thought we did some good work there, I thought. Again, there's no shortcuts. It's work. And work is a good thing. Learning is work. I think it's good work, fun work, but it's work. I thought we did some good work. I will do that. I think I accidentally doubled that. SIE question from Benita. Help me have a better understanding of writing a call option, covered and uncovered. Wow. We can certainly help you on that. So you have to be on the SIE, know that a covered call has limited risk. An uncovered call has unlimited risk. Now, in a live stream like this, Benita, I think it's going to be kind of difficult to do that in this format, but I will link to my SIE options class replay. It's time-stamped, and you can actually go to the the covered call versus the uncovered call there. But the biggest test question on SIE is to recognize that a covered call does not expose the customer unlimited risk because you're agreeing to sell stock you actually own. Uncovered is also known as naked or uncovered. If you're outside the privacy of your own home, naked are good things or bad things likely to happen. Bad things. They might say, why don't you cover yourself? And so an uncovered call is where you agree to sell stock you don't own. And it's very testable to know that a naked or uncovered call exposes you to unlimited risk. Covered calls, limited risk, but you don't participate past the strike because you got to give up the stock. Uncovered calls, unlimited risk. Writing a put option. I think this is, again, something that drives me nuts. Writing a put option is where you agree to buy stock. So you should know that writing means potential victim. What I mean by potential victim is I'm receiving a premium. For receiving the premium, I'm obliged. When I write a call, I'm obliged to deliver the stock at the strike price. Covered or not, I'm not going to be happy if I get exercised because I'm delivering the stock at less than the current market price. And when I write a put, I'm obliged to buy the stock. And I'm only going to get exercised if the stock is below the strike. So there I'm a potential victim when I end up buying the stock at higher than the current market price. I would write all my customers, make them sign a big boy or big girl letter saying they understand in a call contract if they're exercised, they're delivering at less than the current market price. In a put contract, if they're exercised, they're buying it higher. Now, I don't like the word covered or uncovered as it relates to this, because what we mean by covered is you have cash equal to the aggregate exercise price, or you have an offsetting stock position. For example, I had a customer who wanted to write 10 240 puts. 10 240 puts. He's obliging himself to buy 1,000 shares of the stock at 240. That's 240 grand. That's cash equal to the aggregate exercise price. He is covered. He can do it because if he gets, somebody puts the stock to him, he can pay for it. Uncovered would be he's writing the put and he doesn't have any cash equal to the aggregate exercise price. I don't think you'll see that, Benita, on the SIE. On the 7, I don't even think you're going to see this, but it's one of my test prep vendor pet peeves. An uncovered put covered put could be when you write put and you're short the stock. Now, the reason I hate that is because we're saying you're covered because if you end up buying the stock, you'll use it to cover your short stock position. Now, the reason I hate it, I don't think you're going to see it on the SIE, is because it still exposes you to unlimited risk. So it's stupid. Short a put without the short stock is not unlimited risk. Short the put covered by a short stock position, the put won't blow you up, but the stock will. Way beyond the SIE. The SIE is mainly recognition questions. So, I just did an options podcast series on the recognition questions, 3, 4, 5 questions on SIE. I also will link to the appropriate class replays for the SIE. I think you'll be in good shape. Now, if you're going on, Benita, to a series 7, I would highly recommend you overlearn. I recommend that anyways, but at that point, when you go on to 7, there's going to be 20 plus option questions with a lot more judgment kind of questions. So. Amber, I'm sorry, I don't remember what the yes was to. Yeah, okay, good. So Amber, I'll just follow up on that. I'll link to, again, my underwriting munis. I got a whole lecture on it. And I also go over divided and undivided syndicates. Divided is also known as Western, and what goes down stays down. You're individually responsible as a firm for selling bonds. And undivided Eastern, it's based on percentage participation. I had some lady investment bankers in class one time, and they said, Dean, I think of it as a family dinner. And an Eastern family dinner, we just keep passing it around until it's all gone, but nobody leaves the table until everything is gone. It's a Western family dinner. Once you eat your meal, you get to leave the table. So I will link to that, Amber. It's, I think, a great lecture, no surprise. And I think you'll watch it. I think it'll take care of any questions you have on underwriting unis. Well, Gary, yeah, I do take a break. We talked about taking a break, and then you don't want to be, just, as a robot taking practice tests. So sometimes you need to take a break. For example, I had a guy who's, I was tutoring session. I very rarely say this, but I said, listen, I don't think we should be doing questions because I don't think you're at the point where you're actually reading a question, know what you're being asked, which means you need to lay some more base. As part of remediation. So if you're using the Kaplan, you said you are, there's a performance tracker. And on that performance tracker, I wouldn't just keep loading things that tells me I'm weak in. I would circle back, lay some more base, and then come back to it. And I think that could improve it, as well as taking a break could improve it. You didn't tell me what you're scoring, but as your accountability partner, I'd want you to be in the mid 70s range to know that we're going to make our mark and have a margin of safety. I'm a little lower than other accountability partners who tell people they need to get 85 or 90. I don't think that's necessary, but the higher the better is what I would say. Well, I agree with you, Gary. And I had somebody who said they thought the Kaplan questions were too easy. They hadn't taken the test yet. And I said, well, you'd be the first test taker ever who has told me they think the Kaplan questions are too easy. So Kaplan does have, I think, purposely, Gary, what I call gotcha questions. So you thought you knew it, and then there's some paragraph explanation. But I mean, it's done with the right intent. We want you to be pleasantly surprised when you go to take the real test that it's somewhat easier, right? So there's an intent behind that. So, for what it's worth. Well, anytime you change vendors, well, Catherine, I wouldn't worry about it. Anytime you change vendors, your scores are going to drop just based on phraseology. So I'd be awful surprised you don't make your mark tomorrow. So you just got to, try not to freak out because it doesn't do any good. You got to stay calm, cool, and collected, or pretend you are and get a good night's rest. I don't think you're at risk. I really don't. So I think that's just, change in phraseology. I trust in 80% on Kaplan more than I trust in 80% on STCs. So I'm glad to see this isn't the reverse, right? It's not vice versa. I'd be more concerned if you told me you got, 80 on STC and a 67 on Kaplan, because Kaplan, I think, has stronger correlation. You're welcome. You're welcome. My email address, there you go, is deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. You're welcome. I missed my 66 today. Ugh, that hurts. By 3. Ugh. I just been 6. I like that. I like that, Jillian. I have a lot of people that do that, and it works. Sitting Friday, just had a question. Anything I didn't study? The biggest difference, Jillian, is there's going to be economic questions. So assuming you didn't take the SIE too long ago, it's the same economics kind of questions that you received on your SIE. Monetary policy, fiscal policy, inverse relations of interest rates. It's only like 6 or 7 questions, but that is the biggest difference between 65 and 66. Other than that, it's pretty much the same content. It's overlapping content except for that. So just review the economics, and your study effort, I think, for 66 will be sufficient for your 65. And I've had people do that because there's no 30-day wait, and it's worked out great for people. So I'm hoping the same for you. There you go. I appreciate it. It's very gratifying when, my free supplement contributes or to test taking victories. Again, it's a supplement. So, it's not designed to help you pass the test without buying study materials. So, All right. 63 tomorrow. Any last minute advice? Well, for everybody, I appreciate you joining us, but biggest thing is get a good night's sleep. Don't overthink it, Danny. On the Series 63, don't lie, cheat, or steal. Right? Always err on the side of, don't, I shouldn't say this because we're being recorded, but sometimes we call the compliance department the sales prevention department. And they think the easiest way to stay out of trouble is not to sell anything. So, you kind of want to have that compliance state administrator mindset, right? So, when you think about it, Danny, ours is the only industry I know of where it's let the seller beware. Every other industry, it's let the buyer beware. But in our business, we, the ones selling the security, have to make sure we've done it correctly. That our broker dealer is registered, our associated person is registered. If the security isn't registered, why not? And that is the 63. Yeah, I'm Benita Series 6 for sure. If you overlearned on your SIE, I think it's going to pay huge dividends in your next leg of your testing journey, whether that be a 6, whether that be a 7. I just think that's the way to go. Oh, well, thank you, Paulo. Paulo was in my Kaplan Series 7 class last week. Wow, great. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. I think what do we have? That class was weird because Kaplan was changing over to the 3rd edition and they capped it at only like 10 people. Usually there's like 50 people in there. And so it was so nice to, have the time to chat and go over things. Was I thought it was so wonderful. So I'm going to be spoiled now going into the next 7 class where that's not the case. But I have heard from a couple other. I haven't heard anybody who missed the mark yet. So as far as I know, we're batting 1,000 from that. I think we had 10 people in that class. There you go. Well, I don't know, Tiff. There's some very old folks who come into the business at a very late stage. Usually, the situation that I encounter when people are older, much older, like I'm talking like late 60s, early 70s, is like my private equity friend. He said, "Dean, this gives me such great referrals. And I'd like to compensate him, but he's not registered." I said, "Well, that's easy to solve. He's just got to get registered. He's got to take tests." Right. So I don't know, Tiff. I don't think anybody's too old to take these exams. I guess I would base it on, I would say, I don't mean this in a derogatory way. Let me make sure I phrase this right. I'm an older dude, and I know that my brain is not as elastic as it used to be. So, I'm a little jealous sometimes of younger men and women who still have elasticity in their brain. I don't know if I'm making sense of what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I think it's a little harder to pass the exams when you're older now because, passing all these exams is more a function of dedication, discipline, and organization than it is anything else. So I do think it can be challenging, but I don't think I wouldn't put a cap on the age. I've had people who on tutoring who are in their 60s, and I've had people as old as early 70s, and usually it's a compensation issue. If they're registered, they're going to make big bucks. Most of them already have big bucks, but they can get more big bucks. So I know there might be firms, Tiff, that are prejudiced on age. But I think that's in general life in general, right? So I'm not so sure. Again, if I were hiring somebody, it's just the answers they have. And there's some great human capital. There's a inefficient market in older folks. So maybe that means that, as a broker dealer, I can find some good human capital values in that older age group. But, you know, it is different though. I got to tell you, Tiff, we have a lot of men and women who are, right out of college. They're getting 4 months to study and pass these exams. I know that's not most of us. So I like rereading the textbook and manual or reading QBank explanations. I think both, Cynthia. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think it's an or. I think it's an and. So I would, I believe in study blocks, and study block consist of activities. And so what I would say is break up your activities based on study blocks. So for example, if I only have time for one study block a day because I'm a part-time studier, I would decide is it morning or evening. I prefer morning, but it's your thing. And I want 45 minutes to 90 minutes if we can do it. I had a young mom. Can you believe this? I mean, she's putting her kids single mom, and she's studying from like 4 to 5 because that's the only time she has before she sends the kids off to school. Oh my God. And you have to do more on weekends. But anyways, I would lay off my study blocks. And then in my study blocks, I would change activities. I'd rotate activities, readings, one block, next block, doing practice questions. Next block, I'm watching a video. I'd also rotate my subject areas. So let's say I'm going to do 4 study blocks. I'm going to take Friday off. So I do reading, I do practice questions, I do watch a video, and the 4 study block, maybe I do a quiz on everything I've done that week, those subject areas. Rotate subject areas too. Don't do 4 study blocks on options. Do options on Monday, munis on Tuesday, mutual funds Wednesday, and then Thursday, maybe do a quiz on that, take Friday off, and maybe on Saturday do 2-3 study blocks, or Sunday. I would start with your test date and then reverse engineer your timeline in terms of how many study blocks and where you're going to put them. That's what I would suggest. My problem is each time I've tested for 7, I was all across the board. I wasn't totally lacking in any one section. It makes it so hard to study and try to figure out where to improve. I'm so with you on that, Diana. Almost everybody who misses the mark, they miss that way. They didn't have one area where they were over par in a big way to get them over the top, whether that be options, munis, or mutual funds. So I think it's unfortunate, but you're gonna have to overlearn each of them to go above par. Par is passing, below par means you missed the mark. So we got to bring them all above board. I would suggest, Diana, printing out the PDF from FINRA on the test content outline. I would go through that test content outline and see within the 4 areas, functions, you can find where you're not all across the board. Plus means you think in this particular topic that's on the content outline, plus means above par. 0 means you're at par, minus means you're below par. I don't think you're going to have all of that going to be a minus below par. So your printout may look like you're all over the board, but I don't think that content outline, doing what I'm telling you to do, doing that intellectual debrief with yourself, will show that to be true. And then you can help you focus on those efforts in those areas where you're below par. If you're using the Kaplan QBank, don't know if you are, but if you are, the performance tracker is really wonderful in this regard because it shows you where you're weak. Is there a recommended amount of QBank questions should do for a day for the Series 7? I've been told 100. Katie, as an accountability partner, I don't care what the number is. I just want your commitment to do it. So, if you've been told 100 and that's your corporate trainer and they're your real accountability partner who can fire you if you don't pass, you better do 100 questions. Because what I mean by that is that was the agreement and then you don't do it, you miss your mark. The number one thing people are going to do, I would do. So if I your accountability partner, when you miss, first thing I'm going to do is look at I have a Big Brother pass key. I don't have it now, but if I was your real accountability, I would. I can, as an admin, check how many QBank questions you did. And there's a direct correlation to people who fail, who don't do enough practice questions. I'm a big believer in doing more. Brian and I disagree about this. I think you should do, my goal would be to try and exhaust the Kaplan QBank. And so that's 3,500 questions. So if I have 35 days, that would be 100 questions a day. If you do the division, you figure out where you're at in trying to do that. So Katie, as an accountability partner, don't really have a number in mind. I have an activity that I want you to commit to, whether it's how many study blocks a day, how much pages you're going to read a day, and Kaplan question. The other thing I would tell you, Katie, is people trying to help you can't tell how many videos you've watched. They can't tell how many pages you've read, but they can see how many QBank questions you've done. So that's a more tangible metric for people trying to help you, like accountability partners, real and fake. I'm a fake accountability partner, but does having a long position always mean there's an opening purchase? Yes. Followed by a closing sale? No. And the reason I say that may not be true because the option may expire or it can be exercised. I think a great memory aid for options, Amber, is T. What can happen to an option contract? It can be traded. If it's traded, the opening purchase would be followed by a closing sale. I highly recommend you watch the video that Cynthia and I just did for her coaching call. There's a lot of it where we go over that. But remember, there may not be a closing sale because if I'm long, I can exercise. And that means I'm going to buy the stock, long call, or I'm going to sell the stock, long put. And a short position being an opening sale and a closing purchase. Well, again, if we trade it, but remember, not a closing purchase, it expires worthless because then I get to go neener, right? I had my account one time and he was looking for the offsetting transaction. I had sold these puts and they had expired worthless. There was no closing purchase, Amber. My account was freaking out. I said, there is no closing purchase because the options expired worthless. I kept the premium. For accountants who can't figure that out, sometimes we'll do what's not testable called a cabinet trade. As an accommodation, we'll give them a confirm that says it was for a buck. Could it ever be the other way, opposite? No, it cannot. So I just, Amber, posted a video on closing transactions. In the video description, it was from last week's live stream. I actually put the answer set with the answers there, and it's called Very Important Answer Set. So check that out. It wouldn't be the opposite. I know what you mean by the opposite. It wouldn't. The closing always follows the opening. So in your question, I'll just call this A, opening purchase. Opening purchases test question are used to establish or add to a long position. That is very much a test question. Closing sales, we'll call that choice B. Closing sales are used to eliminate or reduce or offset a long position. That is very testable. An opening sale, we'll call that choice C, test question, is used to establish or add to a short position. Let's call closing purchase choice D. Closing purchases are used to eliminate, reduce, or offset a short position. That answer set and the answers I just gave you are very testable. It'll never be the opposite. Thank you so much. We'll be watching on the way to the exam. By the way, I use training consultant for my SIE and 7 passed both. Yeah, I really think you need a supplement, whether it's me or someone else, if you're using training consultants. Thank you. I'm scoring about 60 on Kaplan. I'm going to look at the performance tracker, start building more of a base. Love it, Gary. Love it. How to try to get to 3 minutes. A drawing, Danny, at the end of this session, we're coming up on an hour. We will put a word into the chat, and then we have a wheel and it spins around and it'll pick somebody out the chat to win the 30-minute session. So if you stick around for the next few minutes, we'll be doing the drawing. You printed out. Wow, Diane. I get asked all the time about, do I have it a printed PDF? I do not. There you go. Thank you so much. Diana, that's a great way to lay base. So I have explications. Explication is an explanation in depth, and I use it to riff. So I've done the explication of the FINRA content outline for all the exams that we cover on the channel, which is quite a bit, as well as the NASA test specification. So I always say start here on those. So, the playlist, like the SIE says start here, Series 7 says start here, 65 start here, and those are the explications. By the way, even if you're not going to use my other videos, that at least gives you a kind of a flyover of the content that you need to know. So I'm glad to hear that. Is this available? Yes, Gary, this is always available as a replay on the channel as Ask the Series 7 Guru and the podcast playlist, as well as in the live, just the live section. It's also available on Spotify. 71 on Series 24, read the book, Strength and Some Areas, testing. We're going to have Blake 24. You really got to hit the QBank hard. And Blake, make sure if you have any Kaplan QBank 24 question that you're not sure about, just send me the QID in the top right-hand corner. If you're a Kaplan user, another advantage of that is that I'll help you with any question from any vendor, but it's easier if it's Kaplan. On the right, there's a QID number. And Blake, you can just send that to me, and I'm more than happy to help you out on that 24. I don't know if you're joining us from our Reddit, Blake. We have a Reddit Series 24 group. I'm so proud of it. A lot of people helping each other. We have Reddit communities, sister communities for all of the exams. And I'm most proud of the 24 Reddit community we have. So I don't know if you're joining us from that, but make sure, too, that you're checked in there because there's a lot of debrief going on, a lot of people helping each other. So that would be 2 things. So I'd like you to keep pushing. Blake, like that 71. We want to have more of a margin of safety than 71. So replay. Yeah, we do the drawing at the end. How do you enter the drawing? I think I answered that already. All right, so let me get the drawing ready. I got to go backstage here to get the drawing ready. Boom, boom, boom. And let's call it. Okay, so in the chat, if you want to participate, put boo into the chat. And let me get rid of Danny there. And I'll leave my email. Let me get our Wheel of Fortune here. And let me get rid of this. Boom. Can you guys see the screen? 9 entries, only 9 people want to play, huh? Marcel, you got to put an exclamation point, my friend. My God, I'm gonna owe Marcel like 2 hours of coaching called tutoring. There you go. They got to be exactly as you see it on the screen. Otherwise, it won't pick it out of the chat. Okay, last call. Anybody else? Remember, this isn't a random floating. Oh, Ivy, I'm glad you're joining us from Facebook. I don't know if I have any LinkedIn. I had issues with LinkedIn. I'm glad to see somebody from Facebook joining us. It's not a floating liability I have to deliver the coaching call. So the coaching call is 3 p.m. The next Tuesday. You can share it. You can, give it to someone else if you want. It's recorded and shared like we did with Cynthia today. She won twice, so hers was an hour. So, but it's not like you call me and we work together on scheduling. I'm just too busy for that. So it's Tuesday, 3 p.m. You'll get the Zoom invite when you claim it. If you don't claim it in an hour, I had a guy who didn't claim it. 6 months later, he's sending me a screenshot that he won the drawing and he would like to claim his 30-minute coaching call. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, my friend. It's within 1 hour. Unless you're somebody I know, like Marcel or Cynthia, or if you're one of our regulars, well, then that'd be different. We got to come up with a name for our tribe. What should we call our tribe? We need something better than regulars. The Series 7, I don't know. I got to come up with some name for our regulars. All right, that looks like it. Okay, here we go. Anita, if I just saw you didn't put an explanation point, so if you don't put an explanation point, it will not register. It doesn't help, Benita, to put more than once. It's only going to pick up your one. So putting boo in over and over doesn't increase your odds. All right, here we go. I don't know why it's showing me as an entry. Maybe I put boo in the chat. Would it be funny if I won? All right. So C Hill, I think that looks familiar. I don't know if we've been together before, but just send me an email, deantheseries7guru@gmail.com, and I'll send you your Zoom invite for next Tuesday. It is a little helpful. You can tell me what your agenda is. Like Cynthia told me it was taxation and options. Sam told me that he wanted to talk about options and quantitative stuff, internal rate of return, present value, future value. So if it's not necessary, but it kind of helps me know what we to expect when we log in. All right. Any questions? We're at 6:02. We try and be disciplined in keeping this at an hour. But if you have any other things, this would be the time to do it. All right. Caesar. I knew it. I thought it was Caesar. I think Caesar's the one who gave us greetings and salutations, I think, as I recall. He's back. All right. Well, hold on. I got to get my... Oh, there we are. Let me get rid of this. And let me get... There we go. All right. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. All right, everybody. Have a great, happy Halloween. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.